Welcome to the BuyBox Experts podcast. We bring to light the unique opportunities brands face in today's e-commerce world.
A couple months ago, we did a special series of podcast episodes featuring FBA aggregators, investors, brokers, bankers, and some sellers that had recently sold their businesses to these investors. It was one of the most successful podcast series we've ever done at BuyBox Experts. And now we're adding a new sequence. We're going to be talking to a number of mastermind leaders, talking to them about what their members are saying, what they're thinking about as they look at all this investment money now flowing into the space. I hope you enjoy our series over the coming weeks. And I want to thank the folks at Getida, our sponsor for this series. Getida is a global leader in Amazon FBA auditing reimbursements, analyzing Amazon data and reconciling FBA inventory, filing claims for reimbursement on the behalf of sellers. Check out getida.com to learn more. Enjoy our series. Hi, I'm James Thompson, one of the hosts of the BuyBox Experts podcast. I'm a partner with BuyBox Experts and the former business head of the Selling on Amazon team at Amazon, as well as Amazon's first FBA account manager. I'm the co-author of a couple of books on Amazon, including the recent book, Controlling Your Brand in the Age of Amazon. Today's episode is brought to you by BuyBox Experts. BuyBox Experts takes ambitious brands and makes them unbeatable. When you hire BuyBox Experts, you receive the strategy optimization and marketing performance to succeed on Amazon. We also support investors with due diligence services. Go to buyboxexperts.com to learn more. Before I introduce our guest today, I want to send a big shout out to the team at Getida, a global leader in Amazon FBA auditing and reimbursements. Getida analyzes your Amazon data, reconciles your FBA inventory, and files claims for reimbursements on your behalf so you can focus on investing in more inventory and growing your business. To learn more, check out getida.com. Today, our guest is Brandon Young, head of the Inner Circle Mastermind group for private label brands leveraging the Amazon channel. Brandon also runs Seller Systems, a full private label mastery training course for entrepreneurs getting into private label products. Brandon began selling on Amazon in 2015, and as most sellers do, he started with arbitrage and reselling. Seeking a more scalable business model, Brandon pivoted to wholesale and private label, and in June 2016, he launched his first private label products. Less than 5 years later, he is exclusively running a private label with multiple brands and 8 figures in annual revenue. Now he splits his time between launching new products and teaching others how to effectively choose, source, and launch private label products. Brandon, welcome and thanks for joining us today on the BuyBox Experts podcast.
Great to see you, James.
So Brandon, let me start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about the mastermind that you run. You've got private label sellers that are leveraging the Amazon channel. How do you support them with your mastermind? What differentiates your mastermind from other mastermind and seller groups?
Yeah, so when I first decided to start teaching private label, I wanted to do it a little different. There was a lot of course content out there that had been recycled and regurgitated a bunch of times. A lot of it had been outdated. And I knew that with Amazon constantly changing, the only way to really do it correctly would be to get a living, breathing mastermind and course where the content is constantly updated as Amazon changes. So that's where Seller Systems was born. We created this mastermind maybe 3 years ago now. We've got over 1,000 members. To this point, we still haven't run ads. It's mostly been from word of mouth and from speaking engagements and people realizing the difference. The difference in what we do is that we do live weekly calls as well. So we're doing what we call office hours, where we do 2 calls a week. One is pre-launch and one is post-launch. And we have a lot of large sellers that join. We have over 200 7- and 8-figure sellers that have joined, a lot of brand managers that have joined in order to fill knowledge gaps. Our understanding of the algorithm, how to efficiently launch, how to look at data and base all of our decisions based on data is what really differentiates us.
So how do you take all this lack of advertising that you've needed? How do I take that and learn how to do that on Amazon? Or am I having to spend money on advertising?
Well, so what's funny is like our methodology for PPC is really to be as efficient as possible.
Yes.
So it's more to drive organic rank and profitability rather than to try to just drive a lot of revenue, right? When the algorithm changed a little over a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, PPC used to be something you could throw a lot of money at and it would help rank no matter how it performed. But now Amazon's ranking algorithm relies on your click-through rate, conversion rate as a whole. And typically, pay-per-click or paid advertisements will have a lower click-through rate and lower conversion rate than organic. And so what ends up happening is if you overspend on PPC, typically you're lowering your overall conversion rate and you're hurting your organic rank. And so what happened was there was a massive flip where a lot of market leaders suddenly started to slide in ranks and they started to lose their business, and they were spending as a percentage more and more on PPC and getting less organic sales, and their tacos were going the wrong way.
Yep.
And so we're trying to teach the opposite of that: rank efficiently, maintain ranks efficiently, and then drive profitability. So our approach is a little different, and like I said, based more on data.
So we're here today to talk about this crazy development that happened during COVID. Not the COVID part, not everybody rushing to e-commerce, but all these new investors who are starting to finally pay attention to private label brands on Amazon. In your view, what happened to generate all this new interest? But why now when private label brands have been around since the beginning of the Amazon marketplace?
So I think the real catalyst was the acceleration to e-commerce from traditional retail. That was something that was going to happen regardless, but I think with COVID, it was just massively accelerated. We look at trends in international marketplaces to understand where e-commerce is going, particularly China. They went straight to e-commerce. They didn't have regional or large brands of retailers within China, and they went straight from. They didn't really have desktops either, so they went straight to mobile as well. So you see a lot of trends in China where 60-70% of all shopping happens online, whereas here it's still 30% or less. And so I feel that America is going to move in that direction, and there's still a large opportunity for growth within the e-commerce space in America. And what happened was during the lockdown, people had to shop online. People had to get used to trusting online retailers and building a relationship with them. And so they realized the experience was so much easier, so much better. And so these habits are being formed now where I think we're just accelerating that movement and that growth in that direction.
So you've got all these investors that are starting to pay attention, and it's exciting if you're a private label brand, but it's also a little bit overwhelming. What do you think is going to happen in the next couple of years as the number of investors continue to increase and the awareness among private label sellers that there is this possible exit opportunity?
Yeah, I think that there's two major things that are going to happen from this. First of all, I think a lot of the brands out there that are acquiring businesses don't fully understand the breadth and the complexity of selling on Amazon. They don't truly understand how to drive results efficiently. They don't understand what data to look at and how to manipulate that data for ranking and growth and profitability. So, and they don't understand that the product lifecycle can be short on Amazon depending on the type of product. No matter how good you are at Amazon, products will die eventually. And so the issue becomes that you have all these aggregators coming in that are going to acquire a lot of brands at a high multiple because the multiples are increasing based on demand. A lot of buyers, of brands. So you're going to see that trend, and a lot of them are going to fail. So I think that who you sell to matters. I think that the trends are higher multiples, and I think that a lot of them are going to fail.
We're seeing situations now where brands will put themselves up for sale and they might get 10 cash offers. And quite frankly, I mean, that's completely nuts.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
It's exciting for the brand owners, but it's also, it's perplexing in terms of if there's new investors coming on board, how are they actually going to get a seat at the table when there's so many companies fighting over the same ingredients?
Well, not only that, right? So here's what I think also. If you know what you're doing from an aggregator or a buyer standpoint, you know what to look at, you can realize that most sellers are bad at Amazon, right? 99% of the sellers on Amazon haven't done a great job of maximizing the potential of their products and their growth. So paying a higher multiple for brands that show a large opportunity beyond what has already been done is fine. But if you're paying for a brand that has been driven to the brink of, maximum efficiency and growth, and you're paying 5, 6, 7 times EBITDA, you're going to be in a position where you're likely going to end up losing on that purchase unless you continue to really maximize the brand scale, whether it's from outside Amazon, the goodwill of the customer base, other marketplaces, expansion, things that you can do to really grow from there. But within Amazon's ecosystem, paying 5, 6, 7 times, many products don't last three years, let alone 5 years. So I don't understand. I don't understand some of the multiples that are being paid right now.
So talk to me about how has the conversation changed within your mastermind? What kinds of discussions are being had now that a year ago your members weren't talking about very often?
Yeah, I mean, what's amazing is there's now a definite need to prepare your business for exit, whereas before it was something that most people were like, no, I want to continue to grow my brand almost in perpetuity, because a 2.5x was not enough motivation to get out of this great cash flow business.
Yeah.
But if someone's willing to pay you 5, 6, 7 times EBITDA, like, it's almost a no-brainer. So what we've done is we've put together a few classes with some experts out there, that 2-part series, a 3-part series on preparing your brand for exit. So it's how to handle the financials. So we have an investment banker who's coming in and talking about how he works with brands to prepare them for exit, how to maximize your profit, and how to maximize what you're going to receive on your exit. So I think that the talk has become, well, if it's this easy to research, find, launch products, and create a brand, you can literally do a 7-figure exit inside 12 months if you know what you're doing.
That's amazing.
So now the conversation has become, okay, maybe I should just launch, sell, rather than create a legacy brand or create a brand that's going to give me cash flow for many years to come.
What do you see as brand owners' biggest concerns today, given this new investment attention?
Yeah, I think that some people are concerned that some of the better aggregators that are very good at being efficient are going to continue to squeeze markets, and you're going to end up, it's going to be harder and harder for the small guy. I've heard that repeated multiple times. But the evolution of Amazon and e-commerce and any brand out there is that there's 2 levers, right? No one really has brand loyalty. That's one thing. And then there's incentivizing sales. So if you understand sales and you understand how retail typically operates for brands, it's either you have massive brand loyalty where people are willing to buy you no matter what else is out there.
Yep.
That doesn't exist on Amazon. There is no brand loyalty. There's you can be brand agnostic and it doesn't matter. The other part is that incentivizing sales matters a lot. So whether that's through bundling, whether it's through additional offers, whether it's through discounts and coupons, you're going to be able to continue to drive sales to your product no matter how big the brand is, typically. Unless they're actually out there searching for the term Lego, you can't compete on that search term, right? But if they're searching for bricks, you can probably compete on that. So the knowing what keywords are out there, how to do the research and understand what products could be brand agnostic and what keywords drive sales, you're going to be in a position where no matter how big the aggregators get, how big the brands you're competing against are, you still have an opportunity as the little guy to come in and build a brand and to compete on Amazon. It's all about optimization, the data, and understanding how to find the keywords that are driving sales, the search volume behind those keywords, and optimizing your product.
Those are a lot of the same concerns that every private label brand has had for the last 5 years, last 10 years. How do I become relevant? How do I show up on the first page? Let me ask you this. Are brands going to different places than they used to find the information they need to be able to answer those types of concerns?
Now, the software has only gotten better, right? So software out there answers. We use Helium 10, for example, for reverse data. We look at our competition. Our approach is pretty simple. We look at the top 10 sellers at once. We aggregate all of the keywords that they're currently selling, that they're indexed for. And then we ask the question, how are our competitors getting their sales? And then when we aggregate all the data, what we usually find is a pretty complete, what we call a master keyword list, which is all of the keywords that can drive sales for a particular product. And here's where the opportunity lies. Typically what we'll find is that the best sellers are only on a small percentage of those keywords, whether it's 70% of them, they're leaving 30% of that opportunity on the table. The next best seller might be on 60%, 50% for the next seller, 30% for the next seller. These are guys that are generating profit, that are doing well on Amazon, but they're not good at identifying the proper keywords that drive sales. They're not good at optimizing for those keywords, those routes, those different ways people will search for products. And so we can rank for hundreds of keywords in the top 10 within 3 to 5 days of almost any product launch. Whether we stay there is based on our offer and the merit of the offer. We need to still drive that click-through rate, that conversion rate. So that's what we teach our students. That's what we do on a regular basis in our own brand. We're launching 10, 20 products a month in our own brands. And we're typically successful on an 80% basis for launching and sticking for those keywords. And so it is solved. And here's where that, to get back to your question, here's where that growth is going to go. In order to incentivize your ability to stay there, you just have to have a better offer. How do you have a better offer? Well, it's price, typically. Like, everything's price sensitive. It could be bundling. It could be adding an additional gift or offer, or improving the product, a different design that appeals to people more. Testing that design with an audience through like a service like PickFu, for example, could be a way that you can test the product before you even spend all the money to launch it. So we have the data to understand and the ability to beat our competition on a regular basis, and things are just going to keep moving in a more efficient direction. And I think a lot of the aggregators just aren't good at any of that.
But let's come back to the aggregators for a minute. And I want to talk about the members of your mastermind group. Many of the sellers that I've been talking to, as they indicate that they are now thinking that selling their business is actually a viable option, one of the biggest concerns they have is, how long is this gold rush going to continue? Is it a gold rush? Is this a new development that's here to stay? What are your thoughts on this?
I think that if you look back at the 80s and 90s, it was all P&G brands. It was all it was all retail. There's tons of money out there in the form of private equity firms, PE firms, and investment firms that are looking for an opportunity to sell physical products. It's just moving in the e-commerce space now. So I don't know that this is going to go away. I think it's only going to continue to grow, but I think it will equalize at a more realistic valuation for brands. So I think in the short term, there will be a push for competition to acquire as many brands as possible to get into a space to continue to raise money. A lot of them will not be profitable. Many will fail. But at some point, the ones that are really good at it, that are driving real growth in those brands, that are able to combine them and take advantage of economies of scale, to take advantage of the customer base to market multiple brands to. So if you can aggregate the customers from brand A, B, and C together, and then drive product launches and drive efficiencies that way, I think that those guys will be successful. But I would say that 80% of the people that are in the space are going to fail, and you're going to start to get more realistic multiples.
Let's come back to the brands in your group. So I want to talk about some of the changes that they're having to make today in order to adjust to some of these, the new levels of investment. So talk to me about changes you're seeing around operating procedures, managing P&Ls. Tell me a little bit there, what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think that the brand owners are starting to pay attention to those things earlier now. Like for example, when we first teach Amazon, it's more like, don't focus on brand, find the best potential products, create a pipeline of potential products across multiple across multiple categories. People are starting to think more about branding and building a brand and having a more of a niche focus earlier, how to become more efficient with your financials, how to organize your financials and be more prepared to exit sooner. A lot of these things for the first year, most people wouldn't pay attention to them. It would be, let's go to the path of least resistance. Let's build up a pipeline of 10 products and pick the 3 best. But now you might be picking the first, the third, and the 7th because they're in the same niche, and you can exit that brand in 14 months if you do it properly, rather than worrying about an exit year 2, 3, or 4, which was typically the life cycle previously.
So talk to me about how members are changing the way they think about the time from launch to the time to selling their business. Is it becoming shorter, or is it more
much
sophisticated?
shorter.
Is it more than just shortening it up?
Yeah, so it's more about building a proper brand earlier, and it's definitely the thought of exit is definitely on their mind even from their launching their first SKU. Whereas before it would be, I want to be successful and I want to start generating cash that I can scale without even the thought of exit previously. It would just be, I want to be successful and generate $10,000 profit a month so I can walk away from my job and focus on this full time. Now it's, I want to generate $10,000 profit a month so I can get a check for $600,000 in my pocket or $500,000 in my pocket in 14 or 15 months, and then start all over, and then do it a little differently next time, a little bit bigger next time.
So the companies that join your mastermind, I would think that they've already been at this a while. And by the time they're now talking to you, talking to other members of the mastermind, you know, there's a certain level of sophistication that comes by way of being a member of your mastermind. Where do members still need to become more sophisticated?
Everything for us is a lot of the brands that join. So we have about 25% of our members that join are already doing 7 figures a year on Amazon in revenue. About 30 or 35% have never sold before. And then you have everything in between, people that have tried and failed, people who are, you know, going along okay, but, you know, in the 6-figure range. So where we're seeing the more sophisticated buyers fill knowledge gaps are going to be on product selection, data analysis, keyword analysis, and then building processes around that to increase their success rate. Typically what you're seeing taught by other courses are the traditional methods of, hey, let's look at our competition's reviews. Let's look at the revenue that they're driving on page 1. But on one keyword, really, you know nothing, right? Like you really have no idea of data analysis there that can give you any type of confidence in launching or choosing that product. So what we're doing is we're looking at the product and the market as a whole around the product and helping make better decisions, understanding what the true opportunity of a product is, the true risk behind a product is, and then treating our portfolio of products like a portfolio of stocks, having some low risk, having some medium risk, having a little bit of high risk in there, and being as aggressive as possible. So the efficiencies around understanding the keyword data, the keywords that drive sales, the search volume behind those, the routes that are really matter, understanding the algorithm of how Amazon treats many keywords from the sale of one keyword. Very important to understand. So we're able to choose products that have a better risk, optimize our listings, launch more efficiently, increase the success rate, and then help those larger sellers build processes around those systems so that they can increase their success rate. That's why most people that are already doing well join. And then what's funny is people come in and say, wow, that's really complicated. Like, I've never sold on Amazon. Do I really need to know all that? And it's like, well, why even bother doing it unless you're doing it correctly, right?
I just want to be an open heart surgeon. It can't be that hard. There's many that have gone before me. So let me ask you this. You used the word branding several times. I mean, heck, it's even in your first name, the word brand. But tell me more about, what does branding mean on Amazon? Because quite frankly, if we're doing transactional purchases as consumers, it's generic, it's unbranded search terms. How do we, as brand owners, create something that really is meaningful as a brand?
So I always try to, it's a great question. And like I said, there is no real brand loyalty on Amazon to begin with. people searching for toiletry bag, for example, don't really give a shit what brand toiletry bag they find. They're going to find the design they want in the price range they were looking for, and they're going to buy one of the first results they see that match what they were looking for, right? So here's where you start to think about brand, I think, will be in your A+ content, and then how you touch that buyer after the purchase. So what type of insert card do you have in your packaging? How do you get them into a funnel where you're re-engaging with that customer? Now, it doesn't make sense for certain products because they're not looking for a second toiletry bag for another couple of years usually. But if you have a product that is reusable or that has any type of that needs to be replenished, that engagement for that branding is super important. How do you build brand loyalty with that customer? Now, the other way to do that is like if you have toys, for example, we sell a lot of toys. We know that someone that bought a toy for a 2-year-old girl or a 3-year-old girl is now going to be in the market next year for a 4-year-old girl toy.
Yes.
Or more toys of the similar right away, for that child that they have. How do we re-engage with that person? How do we create a brand loyalty program and touch that person and let them know, hey, we've got these new products we're launching, and because we're just launching them and we want to drive some additional traffic for ranking, we're willing to give you 25% off. And then how do we get that person to engage in that process? So how do you
do that all within Amazon's terms of service?
So within Amazon,
very fine line.
Yeah, it's very difficult, right? Because the insert card can't have marketing on it, but it can have a free gift. It can have a loyalty program written into it. It can have a warranty. There's many ways that you can dangle a carrot to get them to come into your ecosystem, your funnels, where you can start to remarket. Now, when you have that loyalty program on a Shopify site and you only have 2 products, it doesn't work, right? So what I tell my students is you need to build out the branding, but you don't need to worry about outside traffic to a Shopify store right away. I think that a lot of that is a lot of extra effort. You don't need to build up a social media page and start posting pictures of your product and your customers, because that's time that can be better spent developing new products to grow your brand on Amazon, which has a much higher ROI for your time, right? You have a cost benefit analysis for all of that. And, you need to be thinking along those terms. Now, when you hit 20 SKUs or 15 SKUs, and now that outside traffic that you were sending to Amazon through a landing page for launches, bringing them into your own ecosystem and creating some kind of loyalty program, creating a subscribe and save on your own website, that's where that value really starts to pay off. And Amazon's really rewarding outside traffic for ranking if you know what URLs to use, how to bounce them off your site properly. For example, what activities the person should take on your listing versus just a straight purchase. All of that adds a ton of value. So you should be thinking along those launch funnels pretty early on, but the branding, the drive them to my own website doesn't work unless you have a certain threshold of SKUs and a certain offer around it. And because of that agnostic idea on Amazon, most shoppers on Amazon don't really care. What's interesting, another thing that's really interesting is when you're running ads for your brand on social media or Google or wherever you're running ads, Pinterest, people will, there's a spillover, an amount of spillover traffic to Amazon, to your branded search terms, because people trust Amazon more. So just that thought alone should tell you where people's minds are at. They've never heard of you before. Doesn't matter how nice your brand looks. There's a lot of scams out there. They're not going to trust putting their credit card in on your Shopify site more than they're going to trust just hitting a buy it now on Amazon. And so you really just need to understand where you're at in the growth process and in the growth phase, and then how to maximize that effort that you're going to put into it versus the effort you're going to put into developing more products to launch on Amazon, which is the highest ROI of any of effort you can have.
Fantastic hearing you say these things. I want to transition now and talk about what you're hearing from members around this question of, okay, I've decided it's time to sell, and now I'm presented with brokers, bankers, aggregators coming directly to me. How do I make sense of all this as a brand owner who's looking to exit? There's obviously trade-offs to each of these options. I keep hearing about brands who weren't ready to sell. that get an incoming inquiry from one of these aggregators saying, we've been watching you and you're really interesting and we want to pay you X million dollars. The brands say, whoa, 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 whoa. I wasn't ready for this call, but that's a big number. How do you help people think about all these different types of options of how to go to market?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is that all of my members, we put a focus on the financials and we let them know, hey, be on top of your numbers from the beginning,
Yep.
so you know whether that offer is good or not. So when someone does make an unsolicited offer, which happens on a regular basis, if you have any type of market leader, people are just going to the top 100 of every subcategory and spamming messages, right?
Yep.
So they're looking for market leaders. What another thing I want to touch on today with you is so interesting, and I'm sure you heard this, is that every aggregator, every has their own checklist of things that they want, and they're vastly different. Some people want brands that have done a great job of expanding off of Amazon in order to limit risk. Some want only Amazon only brands because then they're good at expanding off of Amazon, so that represents growth for them. Some people want only a hero SKU, like Thrasio wants to buy a bestseller and doesn't care about the rest of your poorly performing or underperforming SKUs. Whereas others want a nice diversification of sales across many SKUs, because that's better. So understanding who you're talking to and what they're doing and where your business fits in their business model, and understanding your own true EBITDA with your ad backs, and understanding the way the financials work with Amazon and e-commerce business. And, that's the most important thing. So there will be buyers that are more preferential to your business model. There will be buyers that will make you offers, but if you don't know your own numbers as a foundation, then you really don't know if that's a good offer or not.
So how do you, as a owner and manager of a mastermind, how do you help your sellers get ready for that awkward conversation?
Yeah, so it's just the same way we're having this conversation right now. We do live calls like on a weekly basis, and people ask about it inevitably every other week, right? It's just, I had this solicitation. It's like, well, what is your true EBITDA when you do your ad backs? What are your true numbers, right? And so if you know your own numbers and they're offering you 6, 7x, I think you're kind of foolish not to take it, almost, unless you know what's on the horizon for your own brand. You're 2 weeks away from launching 20 new SKUs, and it's going to triple overnight. And so maybe that's not good. But so I have many students who, like us, we have many brands. And at some point you stop pumping one brand just to maximize profits because your intention is to exit it. And so then you create multiple other brands where you're growing those, because growth cuts into profits. And so you understanding basically how to maximize your EBITDA when you're getting prepared to exit, and then understanding what a fair valuation is for your business. If you're offered way more, if you could use the cash to pump those other brands and then just repeat the process, but also make yourself more comfortable, allowing you to scale faster. Yeah, I think that's the play. I think that's a smart way to go about it, because a lot of people, the two things that stifle growth are capital and time. You can replace time with employees. You can replace capital by exiting a previous brand, borrowing, raising capital, selling some equity. So, if you can solve those two problems and you have the right processes in place, you can really go big in this business.
So let me ask you this. Among the members of your mastermind that have sold, what have you and fellow members learned from these now exited brand owners? What are some of the things you didn't expect to learn that, lo and behold, really glad that so-and-so who sold shared that with us?
I've heard multiple times that the people purchasing just don't know Amazon. They're surprised at how little they really know. Because when you truly know Amazon, when you truly know Amazon's algorithm, and you truly understand how Amazon ranks products, how to properly select products and optimize those products, and then you have a conversation with someone that doesn't, it's very apparent. And so what ends up happening is, the biggest takeaway I would say is, when you have that conversation with an aggregator that doesn't know what they're doing, don't take more money on the back end based on their performance.
Right.
And so it would be how you base that deal. Or like, if you're super protective of your brand and that's your legacy, and even if you do want to see it survive and go well, just don't do a deal with that buyer. Or make sure that you stay on to help. So I think that there are a lot of brands out there that just don't know what they're doing, that are buying brands. Like, or a lot of companies out there that are buying brands. That was the most surprising thing, but at the end of the day, I think it's pretty indicative of the cash grab, the gold rush that you're talking about.
Right. So let me ask you this: in light of what you've just said, should brands be looking to exit now? Wait a year? Wait 2 years? How should sellers be thinking through that problem specific to their own business?
Yeah, I think you have a good 12 to 18 months of this rush. The economy is going to stay strong, I think, for the next 18 months at least. I think that I would be looking to sell as soon as I can maximize profits. If you're not ready to sell, don't rush it. Like, maximize your profits, understand your numbers, get your SKUs right, understand what buyers are out there that fit your business the best, so you can maximize your multiple and your return. I think that, yeah, it really depends where you're at in the business. Selling now is fine. I'm seeing insane multiples for businesses that are barely doing 7 figures in EBITDA. I'm seeing 7x. I mean,
yeah,
in order to get 7x a year ago, you had to be 30-40% off Amazon in revenue. You had to have a massive brand appeal. You had to be doing 3, 4, 5 million in EBITDA, and like everything had to be right. Like, you had to be a brand that like almost was in retail at that point. And now you're seeing that for an Amazon only brand just because they have $1 million in revenue.
Right. So let me ask you this: as someone who runs a mastermind, what do you see your mastermind group continuing to have to evolve and continuing to have to do to help your members to remain successful in a world where lots of people want to buy their businesses?
Yeah, I think that the focus on maximizing or understanding your financials from the beginning, making sure that you're approaching the business as a real business from the beginning is really something that we always harp on. Other than that, I think that what we teach, the foundational basis of what we teach, make all decisions based on data, understand how to get the data, how to make decisions on the data, and then move forward. We're setting our students up for success, more than other courses and other masterminds. Some people like even we're only successful 80% of the time. So on your first attempt, if you're not, you can just go back at it. It's just a numbers game at that point.
So I want to wrap up our conversation today by asking you a little bit of a loaded question. How do you see these investors buying up these brands? How do you see them getting their value out of whatever growth efforts they're putting into these portfolio brands?
Oh, I think that the model that Thrasio has put together is phenomenal. Brand managers, a whole marketing team, taking advantages of economies of scale with regards to logistics, and having teams that focus on individual processes. Yeah, I see them doing, like, there's a reason they're the market leader and that they've had the success they've had with the brands that they've acquired. That's really the best approach, is really to understand and drill down, understand each process, get experts, train, get the right human capital to be able to handle that, and then start thinking about how to leverage each brand across your portfolio, so that you can really start to take advantage of those and aggregate the customers and the economies of scale that you get by owning so many SKUs, right? Like, it wasn't until we as a brand hit 50 SKUs that we could really start to make a dent in that. Now imagine a brand that comes in and immediately purchases 200 SKUs.
Right.
You can start to, across multiple brands, you can really start to drive down costs. You can really start to drive down your marketing expenses, your outside funnels, and become super efficient. If you're not thinking along those lines, then you're probably doing it wrong.
Brandon, I want to thank you for joining us today on the Buy Box Experts podcast. For those of you interested in learning more about the Inner Circle Mastermind Group, please visit seller-systems.com/inner circle. Join us again next time on the Buy Box Experts podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida. Getida is a global leader in Amazon FBA auditing and reimbursements. Katita analyzes your Amazon data, reconciles your FBA inventory, and files claims for reimbursements on your behalf. No obligations, no hidden fees, just Katita recovering your money. Katita helps you get your money back into your pockets so you can focus on investing in more inventory and growing your business. To learn more, check out Katita.com. That's GETIDA.com.
Thanks for listening to the Buy Box Experts podcast. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web, and we'll see you next time.